Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are and whenever you are that is following me. It is Doom back at it again, just in an undisclosed location, just chilling and stuff. So, I have hesitated to do this in the past, even though I have privately done it, and that is give out dating advice. Um, you know, a lot of people call me and they want dating advice about, dating women here. They email me, and I'm always talking to my subscribers and giving them advice on what's going on in these Latin American streets. So here we go. So the other day I was out here um, with a good friend of mine. I think he's on my channel. I'm pretty sure I showed a video of him. He's living in Cuenca now, and we were trying to conduct a business meeting, and this guy was coming back from Costa Rica. There's another friend of mine here who is a British national that's teaching English here. He is known online as Mr. English Ecuador. So I took him to for these guys so they can meet each other, right? Now, once the introductions were made, this guy had to go back to Cuenca immediately, and so he did. And we went back to sat down to. Here we have we have gas stations that sell sandwiches, food. They're actually pretty healthy, and we sat down for a little bit, catching up because I haven't seen him in a while. And I am going to link him in the description down below, because he teaches English here in Guayaquil, and he prepares people. A lot of big companies here, multinationals, want English speakers, so he prepares them for that. Also, a lot of Western countries have like requirements as far as language is concerned. So you have to take a written and an oral test, and he prepares them for that. So he's pretty good at it. He has an affordable price, and he works mainly out of Kennedy Norte and Guayaquil for those of you who live in Guayaquil or in Ecuador and are aware of the process. So check him out. Attached to this video, there's going to be an expert of a conversation we had. So I'm going to give you all the opportunity to watch the conversation, and I'm coming back for some reactionary commentary. So please go ahead and listen. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. My son's grandmother, she's fucking gossips. She was the one who forced, like, my ex to put me in jail. One day after I was late on the payment. One day. When I went to prove, I told you about this.
But see, here's the problem from intersectional dynamics, and I don't agree with what she did. I'm sorry you went to prison, but here's the thing. What feminine women, which, let's be clear, this country is full of feminine women, really hate is when they bet on the wrong horse. That's when they get pissed. And see, in your situation, nobody really looked at you like, oh my God, maybe this guy's coming up. Nobody looked at that. They just saw your whiteness and your passport. I'm not being racial, I'm just stating facts. And so, because the mindset in here and the lack of education, everybody thinks that the West the fucking streets are lined with gold and all kinds of shit. Not knowing that every single swinging dick in England, the US, the UK, whatever the fuck, they're working 3 to 5 jobs just to survive.
At the moment, it's got fucking worse.
It's got, okay, so your baby mama got with the British guy thinking that life was going to be easier, and this guy's just hanging out in Odessa, not living in San Borondon, not living in a 2-story mansion and shit. And that's when they get irritated. Because they had a performance expectation that you did not meet. And that's when they get vengeful.
I don't know.
I understand you've been living here 10 fucking years, but there are aspects about this culture which...
No, I'm just trying, because...
They had an expectation you did not meet. That's just the end of it.
No,
and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
I remember when my sister came to Ecuador.
So, allow me the opportunity to give you some background on my friend. He's a British national. He's an expat living here. He's been here at least 12 years that I remember. And he got into a legal scuffle here where he was basically incarcerated. I don't remember how long he was incarcerated. It must have been a couple of days, probably. Basically, it was back pay on child support. He had failed to pay in an opportune fashion the child support payment. And in this country, if you miss your child support payment by 1 second, the authorities in Ecuador have, or at least the affected party, which in this case would be the baby mama, has the authority to go to the nearest cop station and be like, that's the guy, and arrest you. And you will be incarcerated until such time as you come up with the funds to pay for it. So he wasn't incarcerated long, and these are facts, and it was all legal and legitimate according to the jurisprudence of the country of Ecuador. And now this is where my story and my word of advice to others come in. I talk to you guys all the time, and I get emails all the time, and I see the reaction of men all the time once I introduce them to women here. And it's like, oh my God, I have found Shangri-La. Women here are so accommodating, you know what I'm saying? They're so submissive. They actually behave like women. It seems like femininity is a lost art in the Western world right now. So they come here, they look at the women here, the way they behave, and they're like immediately enamored by it. And that's just the way they operate, because that's just the way they've been raised. Now, I don't think it's special, but because in their countries or in Western countries, you have such a lack of femininity that basically, for those who've never experienced it, it's like, oh, wow. And, it is what it is. And it's the reason why people travel, or a lot of men are traveling in this day and age. Now, one of the things that I believe, one of the things that I think was a failure or a miscalculation on his part. And this is natural, right? If if you're an American, you think everybody's got guns, right? Because you see it in the culture, you see it in the movies. The average American is just going to think, well, everybody has the Second Amendment. Well, in reality, the Second Amendment in that particular context is unique to one country, the United States of America. Um, and you could go on and on and on and on about how people perceive things from their cultural perspective. Now, there are certain things that people don't realize about dating, and let's call it more traditional or primitive societies such as Latin America, Africa, other parts of the world. Women here date, but dating to them, first of all, it's serious and it's transactional. They understand their role and they expect you to understand theirs. And this is where a lot of the problem comes in. Now, let me just give you an example. If you were to date a woman in London, Atlanta, Berlin, most of these women, if you're a young man or young woman out on a date, are expected to pay half the bill. Some of the women might not like it. Some of the women have some of the women that have certain expectations are going to be like, they're not going to call you for a second date. They're not going to be rude about it, but they have certain expectations, and you're like, okay, well, let's split the bill or whatever, and they're like, oh, I won't. But there's an expectation of 50-50, right? They prioritize their careers, Western women. So the whole notion of birth control is something that, as a young man, I remember I didn't even have to worry about. Because most women, I'm talking about the 90s, most women were on some kind of birth control, right? They either had the pill, there's a shot you take every 3 months. There's all kinds of birth controls and devices that control birth. And even if you had some kind of a situation, you have the day after pill, and then you have kind of stronger medication. A lot of people talk about medical abortion. It's kind of rare in today's climate, where they have to intervene with machinery or surgically. A lot of modern day procedures of these kinds are done through chemicals, through just pills, day after pill, and there's some stronger pills thereafter. So it's just is what it is. Women here in these cultures do not behave in the same way. Women here will, to a degree, give you everything: femininity, good sex, submission, a culture of catering to a man. But the adage of this ride is not for free strongly applies to non-Western cultures. Now, as far as the specific case of my friend, as a teaching example, what I must assume is that when he first arrived, some aspects of that culture, of this culture, the Latin American culture, not necessarily the Ecuadorian culture, just the Latino culture in general, were a mystery to him. And he didn't realize what he was getting himself into. And now, obviously, he's paying the price and the consequences of an unwanted pregnancy. Um, and this is the part where it makes people a little uncomfortable, you know. And I say this all the time to people: none of you are special. There isn't a man on planet Earth that just with his physicality alone will have women drop their panties. That's just not a thing. There isn't a guy with a penis large enough where women will just go crazy. So whenever you get attention from these women in such a way, you have to understand that on her part, there's a reason for it. And this is another thing that people don't get. When women look at you, they're not really looking at you. They're looking at your potential, right? They're not looking at you to a degree they don't give a shit about you. They're looking at what your potential is and what you can do for them. And if you're a foreigner, they're not looking at you. They're looking at the monetary. They're looking at the monetary. They're looking at the coin of your country, whether it's the euro, if you're part of the European Union, whether it's the American dollar, whether it's the Canadian dollar. They're looking at that. British pound, the whole nine. They're looking at that. And what a lot of people don't realize, and what a lot of Westerners don't realize, is that most women, by and large, across all cultures and all countries, they are usually culturally loyal. That means that if a woman goes to another group of men, they're not they're looking for accommodation. They're not looking like, okay, like Ecuadorian men like younger women. That's just all there's to it. Past a certain age, you know, I have I have seen men behave like total douchebags and assholes. It's like, you're 32. About the only thing I can give you is dick. And obviously, women get offended here because it's not normal here to have a woman in her 30s. It's changing now, but it's not normal here in these countries to have a woman, go past a certain age and not be married. There's an expectation that you should have settled down. So a guy comes in and a woman's like, well, you're not treating me seriously. What's going on? You only call me at midnight. Obviously, we're all adults here. You can imagine why some male would be calling at midnight. And it's like, and then you get the typical response here. It's like, no, you're too old. And then obviously you get the typical anger. Oh my God, how can you say that to me? And guys are like, well, if you don't want my attention, I'm out of here. I'm just gonna go to a 19. See, these are the things that happen here constantly. And when a woman goes out and searches for a guy that's British, Canadian, whatever, she's looking for understanding. She's looking for accommodation. She's looking for a gentler kind of patriarchy, because women here are used to patriarchies. That's what they know. That's how they've been raised. So, maybe they want something better, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean, and this is where people get it wrong. Um, like, for example, when I dated in the US, to me, an unwanted pregnancy was not a thing. Most of the women that I dated when I lived in the US, they were kind of career driven, they were kind of career oriented. Um, uh, at the time, I rarely used condoms. So if something were to happen, I just automatically assumed that she would take care of it, however she felt it necessary. We live in an era where it's my body, my choice, right? So my attitude was like, why should I care? And I really didn't care. I really didn't care at all. You know, um, no woman ever told me, they had a baby from me. Um, I, at the time, was too broke for a woman to come in and finesse me. So that was just not part of my equation. Now, I know this because I have studied, I have traveled, but a lot of these people cannot relate. They see they see Western media, um, you know, and because people here are, not everybody's broke, but there's certainly more needs here, and because there's more needs here, um, people have a I mean, the internet has made information accessible, right? So the the statement "I didn't know" it's kind of foolish. Everyone knows who the Kardashians are, right? People in Saudi Arabia know who Kim Kardashian is. People in Russia knows who. It, I could go on and on, but people know. You can read. You can put it into Google Translator if you don't understand it, and you get a translation. And but there is still in certain countries not a whole lot of sophistication. So what I assumed happened to my particular friend was, um, she saw the passport, she saw the language, and she's like, I got to go get the bag. And just because the way my friend operates, I don't think he would allow himself to be finessed, because that's just I just know him. He doesn't operate on that level. Um, but what I believe happened was the same thing that could have happened to me. In the U.S., like I said, I never thought about birth control. It just wasn't a thing. The only time I thought about birth control was when I was in the champagne room with a stripper. That's the only time I thought about birth control, because I don't know how many guys she's been with, right? That's the only time I thought about birth control. But I remember in high school, girls were like taking the pill and all kinds of things, and it was just the environment, the culture is just, it wasn't geared towards family, um, and even women who are older, they they can't necessarily afford a family, and so it was just, you just automatically assume that the woman was going to take care of it, with a day after pill, or she was getting a Depo shot or whatever. And what I believe happened to my friend was that, um, his partner at the time just thought, It's gonna be all right. You know, I'm just gonna baby trap him. I'm just gonna baby trap him, and you know, maybe in a year I'll be back in London instead of being in in the in the jolly neighborhood of Mapasingue or wherever. I don't know. I don't know where this particular female lives, so I can't judge her. But and obviously the way things worked out, he suffered a legal and financial repercussion of it, and that should be a warning to y'all. Um, how things can go wrong. This is also another situation when women here give you absolutely everything. I'm talking, she's there all the time, she's taking care of you, she's giving you sex whenever you want to. You should not you should not be like, oh my God, I'm just such a, you know, you should be like, why is this woman giving access to all these things to me? What are her intentions? See, that's another problem. A lot of people in the West are, men and women, are into hookup culture. We hook up, we have sex. Maybe we don't have sex, but we just hang out and see where it leads. You know, if it works out, if it works out. People don't take dating seriously. Women in these countries do not behave in that fashion. From the moment you say hello to them, they're assessing your potential. They're seeing how you dress. They're seeing whether you have a fucking $3 Chinese watch or a $30 Casio or a $3,000 Rolex. They're looking at you up and down. How you hit her with your eggplant emoji matters to a degree, but none of that matters. Your physicality may matter to a degree, but really it doesn't matter. So whenever you get a certain treatment for a woman, you should actually be careful, because since at least Western men don't experience this on a regular basis, then the propensity to fall in love is like off the charts. I see it all the time. I introduce a girl to a guy. Oh my God, she, you know, she she used my penis as a microphone and she was singing fucking Beethoven. Oh my God, she let me hit her in all these orifices and blah blah blah, and her cooking skills are out of this world. She's not doing that because she likes you. None of you motherfuckers are that special. Hate to be blunt about it, but it is what it is. She's doing this because she has an expectation of something. And when you don't deliver, that's when you see the ugly side of femininity. And so I will impart this happy chat with the eternal words of a good friend of mine known in these internet streets as Gringo Loco. And he said to me when he was here, right as we were, I don't know what I don't know what the fuck. He hasn't been here in a while, but he was like 1 year. He was here all the time. We were gonna go to 18th Street. We were gonna go to the 18, a red light district, a known red light district. And he said to me, I wrote it down here. Let me see. Being with a woman is like boxing. You must protect yourself at all times. Wise motherfucker. 78 years old. Anyway, that's all for today. This is Doom. out.
I welcome you on behalf of the Party Ecuador team. Come to Ecuador and make your dreams come true. Lovely women are waiting for you.